does it mean when your lawyer needs a lawyer? It's usually a bad sign. That was true for Michael Cohen, whose legal work for President Trump was interrupted by his own indictment. And he's now serving time on a range of offenses, including payments he says he arranged for his client, Donald Trump. Cohen, vacating his work as a personal lawyer and self-declared fixer for Trump, left a hole filled by several lawyers and filled most loudly by Rudy Giuliani, who is now under criminal investigation by the same office that, one, indicted Cohen, and two, was once run by Rudy Giuliani. So we've got people here who are in the thick of it. When Cohen was under pressure, the lawyer who preceded him as Trump's lawyer, Jay Goldberg, correctly predicted that Cohen would flip on Trump, telling the Wall Street Journal he warned President Trump, quote, "Michael will never stand up for you." Goldberg represented Trump for 15 years, a former prosecutor himself. He knew the system and Cohen. And right here on The Beat, he explained his view of that lawyer.
If you spend 5 minutes with Michael Cohen, you know that he's not strong. He's weak, that he would cave in with respect to any wrongdoing.
Cave in? Well, Cohen did cooperate with the feds. Tonight, Giuliani has been insisting he hasn't heard from prosecutors, and this week he's been defying a subpoena from Congress. Several of Trump's lawyers find themselves not only defending their client, but sometimes defending themselves. Will Giuliani follow the Cohen path, or will he ultimately beat any potential case and emerge triumphant? Well, joining me now exclusively is former federal prosecutor and attorney for Trump for over a decade, Jay Goldberg. He's the author of the book, The Courtroom is My Theater, and he knows these issues well. I'm also joined by attorney and MSNBC legal analyst Danny Cevallos. Thanks to both of you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Jay,
good to see you.
It's good to see you again. You've worked for President Trump in private practice. You know Cohen, you know Giuliani. When you see Rudy Giuliani here today, what do you think of the job he's doing?
Well, I think he's gone off the rails. John Bolton today said that Giuliani is like a hand grenade. And it's a shame because his background is extraordinary. But somehow he got seduced into the likelihood of high publicity, and he lost his sense of balance.
Based on what is publicly known, do you think Giuliani has legal liability?
I think he will have legal liability. Now, let me say this to you. It was in March when Trump called me and asked me whether it was good for him to hire and retain Giuliani as his lawyer. And I said, despite his background, which was extraordinarily good, Giuliani would not make a good defense-type lawyer.
While Donald Trump was president, you told him not to hire Giuliani for this role.
Not to hire Giuliani.
And what was your reason?
He had spent too much time as a prosecutor. Prosecutors can generally go outside the line and there's nobody to correct them. He wouldn't be careful defensively to see that Donald was protected.
Do you think because some prosecutors are so used to being in charge, they lose the skills that you need to have when you're not in charge?
Absolutely. You need the skills that the man to my left, Danny, has as a defense lawyer. And a defense lawyer plays things with the possibility that it might come out later on.
Now, I want to be clear about your expertise, Jay, both as a federal prosecutor and someone who, as we mentioned, worked for Donald Trump. You know Michael Cohen.
No, that's very interesting. In the 15 years that I worked for Trump with my own office, I never met Michael Cohen. Whatever dealings he had with Michael Cohen would be when he sank into the well of the desk and had conversations with people or a person that I didn't know. But he insulated me, apparently, from any exposure because he knew that I wouldn't do anything inappropriate.
And what about that arrangement regarding Giuliani? Have you stayed away from what he's doing?
No, I think Giuliani has been seduced by Mar-a-Lago, the lifestyle. It's very heady to be on the plane, gold-plated. It's once in a lifetime to somebody who's dealt in the trenches with rooting out the mob.
Yeah, and you know more about this than most people. Does Rudy Giuliani have any evidence or records that could resolve what he was doing with Ukraine?
Yes, there's a book that he kept of all the contacts that he made while in the Ukraine. It hasn't been subpoenaed. Thus far, it hasn't come to light. And I tell you that if the subpoena is issued for that book that he prepared, it will redound to the detriment of Donald under an agency kind of concept, that Donald will be responsible for all the things that he did. And Giuliani did a lot of the things that he's used to doing while he was a prosecutor. He was a very hard-driving.
Rudy Giuliani prepared this book, you say?
Yes.
Have you seen it?
I've seen the book.
If you say there's this book and you've seen it, and now you're mentioning it on air,
Yes.
the logical result is that it may be subpoenaed.
Let the chips fall where they may. I don't think there's enough to impeach Trump, and certainly not to convict him.
But you do think there are things here that might make it look like Rudy Giuliani broke the law?
Giuliani likes to keep a log of the things that he's doing because he wants to show it to the client.
Let me bring Danny. Let me bring Danny in, and then I'll come back to you.
Yes.
Danny, this longtime lawyer for Donald Trump is talking about another lawyer for Donald Trump who's under investigation and who's fighting congressional subpoenas. Your reaction to what Mr. Goldberg is saying, that there is this record book, that it exists, that he's seen it, and that it might have more evidence.
It would be very difficult to keep this book from disclosure pursuant to subpoena, because the first question is, what is the purpose of this book? If it's not for the purpose of providing legal advice and services, and if it's not attorney work product, then privilege is largely dissipated. What exactly is Rudy Giuliani's status? Who's he working on behalf of? Is he a lawyer?
Is he a
diplomat?
Is he a lawyer, or is he an agent? He might be a consultant. He might be a contractor.
That's right.
Apparently pro bono. For both of you, Donald Trump has talked a lot about the idea that if someone else does something for him, he's not responsible. And if they give him a view, right or wrong, he relies on it. And there is a concept called reliance, although it has a breaking point. Here's the president making that argument.
Remember this, he's an attorney. Whatever decision he makes, you're supposed to rely on an attorney to make a decision. When you have an attorney, you're supposed to be able to rely on your attorney.
Attorney-client privilege?
But it's also called reliance.
Jay, is there a reliance defense if Rudy Giuliani broke the law in his foreign dealings for the president? Can Donald Trump ultimately insulate himself, or do you think that Giuliani has acted in a way that could put too much on Trump?
I don't think Donald would suffer any adverse consequence at this time. He could be named as an unindicted co-conspirator in any criminal activity of Giuliani. But keep in mind that when you deal with attorney-client privilege, it's Donald's privilege.
Sure.
It's not Rudy's privilege.
And we're short on time with all the news. The last question for you, Jay, given your interest, do you think that Donald Trump should end this work relationship with Giuliani?
I do think so. I think it's time. And I said that in March of 2018.
And you think that even more so today?
That's right.
Danny?
It seems like Giuliani's increasingly becoming a liability for President Trump. So it may be time to end the attorney-client relationship and seek assistance elsewhere.
Very interesting. And I think you made some news here tonight, Jay, and you're certainly close to a lot of the players. So it's very interesting. Jay Goldberg, Danny Cevallos, thanks to both of you.
Good to see you.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.